Skep it is.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Minions of the Zoo Night Stream, Thursday edition. I'm your host, Prospero, and Minions joining me this evening are Blind Press.
Hello.
Sanguine Mathghamhain.
Good evening, all.
The Harry Channel.
Good evening.
Skep Tock.
Hi, everybody.
And Jenna.
Hola.
It is a minion-rich environment tonight. How was everyone's day? And I will do this by name. Jenna, how was your day?
Long.
You have an infant in the house? I am not surprised. Is he being an infant?
Yes, he's being a 2-day-old, 3-day-old. How long has he been here?
He's 3 days.
Feels like longer.
I love the kid, but he certainly has found his vocal cords.
Of course he has, because he's a newborn. And I think the phrase enfant terrible
It's redundant.
Yes, it is redundant. It is, I need, and it's top of lungs. It's not, oh dear, pardon me, mama, papa, I have the hunger. It's, so.
We did take him to his 2-day checkup, and he didn't lose any baby weight.
Good.
I think it's because he wants a bottle every hour and a half. And
well, that's because he's also an infant, right?
I also believe, oh yeah, and
this isn't your first rodeo with an infant.
No, but I'll tell you, the albino in him is really loud.
The albino in him is really loud.
Yeah, the children of the corn. Instead of just staring, they now scream. Skep, how was your day?
Oh, it was good. I was, kind of started my day flummoxed by some of the Twitter traffic regarding Hamas and Israel. I have thrown myself into that hammer and tong. I spend hours a day talking with people, putting my opinion over again and again, learning, watching stuff. It's an interesting situation, and it's fascinating to see the way the world is reacting to it. I don't know that we want to go too far down that road, on stream. But you asked me how my day was, and that's pretty much what occupied my day. Other than on a personal note here, our garden has taken over our lives. It's like a garden full of time-eating plants.
Hi, Seymour.
Yeah, pretty much. And they don't eat people; they eat time. And so it's wildly successful. It's going to put out an unbelievable amount of food. We are hitting some efficiencies that we're going to produce bushels of corn. I mean, literally bushels of corn, and peas and carrots and the potatoes. We did the potatoes right. We finally, it looks like we figured out potatoes. So we're going to get our own potatoes. This is literally a garden that could feed us.
Yes, sounds like it.
It's really kind of cool. It's also a garden people would kill you for and take over. But if the apocalypse happens, so keep your guns oiled. But anyway, yeah, so
build yourself a butthole where you can protect yourself against the zombies.
Yeah, pretty much. But so it's been a day of happiness over the garden, and also wariness over how much work this is going to be, and frustration with the insanity, really, that's going on. And not so much, I understand what's going on with Hamas and Israel. I understand down to the gnat's ass what's going on. But it's the world's reaction to it that is just disappointing to me time after time. So anyway,
something
that's
we
what
might discuss briefly is the
Yeah.
the uniformity of the reaction.
Oh God, yeah.
Which I find
Distressing.
yes, I find it highly coordinated. Harry, how was your day?
That's a good question. How was my day? I don't know. It was a fair amount of coding. I actually was able to convince somebody in a professional setting to. I just said, young person, who you are new and shiny and new and freshly formed. How would you like to learn a lot about Linux and security and stuff, and help me get things done? And in return, I will mentor the hell out of you. And so I think I might have actually picked up somebody to help with some of my workload.
That
And,
sounds wonderful.
yeah, it's
Yes.
also really nice to. It's a lot more fun to teach people how to do stuff than it is just to do it yourself sometimes.
Yes, it is, and to be surprised by them as they learn too.
Yeah.
You recapture a little of your joy of the subject when you see someone take to it.
Right, and you learn it more thoroughly because the level of learning that you need to do something is a lot less than the level you need to explain something to somebody
yeah.
Oh,
else.
absolutely.
It's really instructive, but it was, there's a lot of stuff that's gone away in society. I know I don't need to explain this to you and Skep, but there's a lot of old school social custom that has disappeared. But I haven't given up on all of it. So I happen to know this guy's uncle works for the same company. So I had an excuse to talk to him, and I said, hey, let's talk about your nephew for a little bit. Did that whole thing. And so a lot of times when you get into these positions, you don't want to ask the question unless you already know what the answer is going to be.
Correct.
And you don't want to extend an offer unless you're kind of sure you want to do it. Because the last thing I want to do is 6 months from now be going, God, this kid is slow. How did I end up volunteering for this?
Right.
I don't need this kind of grief. So, in terms of all the stuff, just arranging to get some of somebody's time is difficult. But like I said, I talked to his uncle and found out a little more about the kid's background and what he hoped to do in his life. So when I, made the offer to mentor him and have him help me out with stuff, I already knew what the answer was going to be.
You knew that there was fertile ground for that. Yeah.
Well, I knew what his plans were professionally, and I knew that what I was offering him, was in our mutual best interest.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you asked the uncle, do you think your nephew likes candy? Of
Yeah.
the sort that you're offering, and if you get that kind of, an uncle is enough removed too that you can you could have gotten an honest answer, which is yes, he's thirsty, but he refuses to drink. So you have a better idea. Parents tend to think their children are perfect, where aunts and uncles are at enough of a remove to go,
Yeah, but the other part of this dynamic is I'm not saying that nepotism is a great thing, but if you've got two people in a company, an older one and a younger one, and they've got the same last name and they're actually related, the older one doesn't want the young one behaving in a way that makes him look bad.
correct.
And that's a really powerful incentive. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, is it fair? Because does it give the person a heads up when the resume lands on the HR person's desk?
No.
It does give them a little bit of a heads up, and honestly, I mean, a leg up.
Yeah, it gives them a
because
leg up.
but who says
But
that life is fair? Life isn't fair, and you can't make it fair. But we might as well use the system for the best ends we can. And sometimes that means talking to a guy's uncle.
Yeah. Well, Lloyd Bridges used the theory of nepotism, and his own family. He put his kids in Sea Hunt, and if he had friends that he knew were not working, I mean, he built a culture of family nurturing within the business and nurturing friends within the business, because he said, "Why not? I'm in a position where I can do this. Why wouldn't I help my children if they're interested? Why wouldn't I help my friends if they're interested?"
They were good kids, and he could trust them too.
Yes, and he had good friends.
Yes.
It was Leonard Nimoy who said that he was driving down the street one day and Leonard was cutting his grass. And he pulled over and he goes, "Hey, Lenny, how's work?" And Nimoy said, "I don't have anything at the present." He said, "Sea hunt next week. Come on."
Wait, is this Spock?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
'cause
awesome.
Bridges was a stat, and when Lloyd Bridges passed away, that was a specific story that Leonard Nimoy wanted mentioned. That those kinds of lovely stories about the quality of an individual looking out for the people he knows.
It was decency, but it was self-serving decency.
Yeah,
It's the very best kind.
I need a body in a role you can act, and I like you.
It's better than charity.
Yeah.
Absolutely better than charity, and the person gets their journeyman time in.
Yeah.
And more notice. Sanguine, how was your day?
My day was grand. I had a decent night's sleep during the day and woke up, had a good game session with a couple people, and now I'm just sectioning up some things. I sectioned up 2 chickens for the coming week and some change. 4 portions went into the freezer, 4 portions into my fridge.
Yay.
And now I'm going through and cleaning up some strawberries so that I can vacuum seal each of the strawberry groupings. About half a pound of strawberries per bag. And I'm deciding how many of them I want to turn into whiskey strawberries and how many I want to keep standard strawberries.
50-50.
I know. Tis that time of year when strawberries taste like strawberries. They're not fooling you.
And then the question is, if I do so Jenna just said 50-50. Which whiskey should I use?
Oh God.
I
You're
didn't-
You're asking the Mormon which whiskey to use.
I don't even
No,
like
I'm not saying
strawberries.
to Jenna, I'm saying to everyone else. Which whiskey should I use? Because I have
The kind you have.
Jameson, of course. That narrows it down not one whit. I
How
have
many
Jameson.
strawberries do you have?
I have 4 packs of strawberries. One of them is going to remain fresh because that's going to be the one that I use in the next couple days. 3
How
of them
many
are getting
whiskeys
vacuum
do you
sealed.
have?
A hell of a lot more than 3.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Because
Really, I just write the names down on a piece of paper, put them in a hat, and draw.
Because I have-
I'd use Irish whiskey if I was
Yeah.
you.
Irish? Okay,
Yeah.
so that'd be the Jamesons and
Smooth,
Well,
and it'll
uh,
make it
because I have Jamesons.
maceration through maturation.
I have Jamesons. I have Green Spot, which is a really delicious one. If people
If-
like Irish whiskeys,
Look, if you're gonna macerate these, I would make sure that the whiskey was very good tasting, but not your favorite sipping whiskey. How about that?
that works.
Because I
JMO.
think. What did you say?
JMO.
Yeah.
It's cheap and cheerful.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Because I wouldn't waste sipping, really fine, your favorite sipping whiskey on macerating, but I wouldn't use cheap crap either.
It's at that perfect price per flavor.
Yeah, it's like cooking with wine. Don't buy the rot gut because it'll make your food taste like you put rot gut wine in it. BP, how was your day, hon?
My day was all right. We hung out. Alex and I hung out, and we did school, and went to the park, and it's, we had a nice dinner, and I did my Twitch stream. I broke the follower mark for being able to have subscribers now, so I just have to keep my stream schedule going and have I think it's 4 to 5 viewers in the chat, and then
Excellent.
they'll allow me to have subscribers. So, and I'm trying to build work on building up the stream lab alert stuff for Twitch too, for people to be able to do stuff and so that I can get follow notifications and subscriber so I can thank people and all that. So I'm trying to set that up, and so yeah, it's coming together.
That is grand. I had a lovely day. Absolutely lovely day. Cree and I went out and, well, I got first. This is going to seem particularly trivial, but it meant a lot to me. I play one of those hidden object games, and there are actual leagues, and so there's a group of us that are in our little division, and there has been a scene that has plagued me since it opened on the board in this game, because it was almost gray on gray scale. Trying to find objects in it was a fruitless endeavor for me. Didn't matter how good the light was. It was just intensely frustrating. Well, there was a quest going on, and that scene came up, and I thought, God in heaven. Went to it, and the developers had changed the scene. They had brightened it up and changed the objects, and it was just one of those little happy moments in a very trivial thing that I actually doubted my sanity when I first saw it. But that made me ridiculously happy. Tiny little pleasure. And then Cree and I went out to lunch to probably the only decent seafood restaurant in the area, and just had a lovely lunch. And it's rare that I say this, that after having a lovely lunch, dessert almost stopped me cold. It was a mango sorbet that was so good, it was almost indescribable.
I love mango.
It was just extraordinarily good. That, and it was a huge serving. And I thought, oh God, all of this, I hope it's good, when it was set down in front of me. And then I almost wept when the last spoonful was gone. It was that good. I mean, I could have made a meal of it. And that's 2 really fine sorbets I've had in 2 weeks' time. So you can tell I'm a Sybarite. I like things to be pleasurable, my endeavors to be. And woohoo! That was fun. So Skep brought up something when we were running through the hellos. There's a uniformity on social media to the messaging about Israel and Gaza that I find remarkable. It is as if someone is emailing thousands of people who are on social media and say, hit these points today. Has anyone else noticed this? Thank you. Don't everybody rush in at once.
There's been a disturbingly pro-Palestine leaning in Canada, and particularly in the government, which is rather disturbing. There was a member of Parliament last Friday who stood up in the House of Commons during question period, because before the actual questions happen, they do declarations and statements. And this guy, he was from somewhere in Ontario, and he was like, we need to condemn what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. Canada needs to stop selling arms to the Israelis. The Israelis are committing humanitarian and crimes and genociding the Palestinians. I don't know how you can do that, because Palestinian is not a race. And then he finished his statement with, Palestinian lives matter. And then he sat down.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good response, actually.
It was very. Thankfully, there wasn't any like yeah, like you know what I mean. There wasn't any clapping.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was pretty damn quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those wow, he actually said it in moments. The
Sorry, thought I'd stop beeping.
it's fine, dear. We're so accustomed to it now. I hardly notice. The there just seems to be this lockstep. A lot of it's driven by the press. A couple stories come out, or somebody in the administration says, or one of the elevated among the squad makes some comment, and then all the little faithfuls rush to their devices and hashtag the fuck out of it. Hashtags were a mistake. They just were a mistake.
Hashtag no more hashtags.
They just, it's god awful. I mean, I don't know how any of you all feel, but when I open Twitter and I check the trending, I think, oh Christ, almost every day. And I go and I look, and it's a bunch of useless comments. I mean, basically, no one's saying anything of any value with the hashtag. Because we need to get this trending.
There's a lot of astroturfing.
Oh, terrible amounts of it.
See, the thing that I find the most worrying about everything that I've seen when it comes to the current issue is the fact that it seems like there's a large number of people that are trying to see who can get Reinhard Heydrich to blush with the most amorous of hues in their phrasing, because there's shit that is almost straight up rev up the gas chambers. And it is fucked.
By the way, for our listeners, Reinhard Heydrich was Himmler's right-hand man, and he was also the
Butcher
he was in charge of was it Hungary or Czechoslovakia? I can't remember, but
he was known as the Butcher of Prague.
Yeah, that's right. Of Czechoslovakia, where he was assassinated by Czech partisans.
Yep.
Thank God.
By the way, just incidentally, just regarding the whole Israel-Hamas situation, okay, there was a legitimate dispute about who had ownership of some houses, and that happens when the ground under question gets traded back and forth between countries based on conquest. So the ownership is fairly tricky. And after a long legal battle, the Israeli High Court ruled in favor of some Israeli landholders whose actual claim to the land go back to deeds that were cut in the Ottoman Empire a long time ago. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, those deeds are too old to be relevant. The court said we've got to do the best we can to trace what the ownership is. The ownership seems to be legitimate to these families who want to sell to somebody else so they can knock down these old houses and put up nice new apartments and condos. And so the Palestinians who never paid a dime for those houses, but whose families had been living in them for 30 or 40 years, rent free. Okay,
squatting in them, in other words.
Squatting in them. They did not own the property. They never owned the houses, and they were evicted. And this has been used as a pretext for the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. And this is, I'm going to talk about this. I am going to get into this just because it needs to be gotten into just a little bit here. The Palestinians in the Gaza Strip decided that this was a pretext to send 4,000 rockets, 4,000 people-killing rockets into Israeli civilian areas, that were there were concentrations of houses, and places. Schools could be hit. Anything could be hit by this.
Schools.
Not go after
Israel has a pretty
airports.
sophisticated defense system against missiles. It's called the Iron Dome. It has a combination of missiles that they've developed and also U.S. Patriot batteries that can knock 95% of the missiles that come in out of the sky. That means that 5% of the missiles hit. Most of those hit nowhere, okay, because of Israel's population density. But if it goes into a city, it's going to hit somebody, because the cities are very densely populated, and people have been getting killed. They have killed innocent Israelis. Why? Because they were pissed off that a court decision in the West Bank did not go their way, and the world is acting like each side has really important issues, and this is a 50-50 matter, and we just want the violence to stop. The violence is that an aggressor murdered a bunch of Israelis, and Israel retaliated. That's not even-handed. That's a good guy and a bad guy. That's all there is to this. And anybody who says different is contravening the facts. It's really that simple.
Yep. Now, in the interest of clarity, Egypt has stepped in as they can to some extent, because there has been a peace between Egypt and Israel that has stood more than a generation's test of time, which has been a comfort to both parties, I believe.
It's been a boon to Egypt, is what it's been, and
Certainly.
good on them.
Yeah, and good on them. And so there is a tentative ceasefire in place, as there have been ceasefires in the past, and we know who breaks those ceasefires.
It's not Israel. Not ever. Not
it
one.
has never been Israel. Even though they have accused Israel of being the ones to violate,
Israel fires back.
There was always a predicating of...
The way that Scott Adams put this, and I just love this. He said, let's say that you're out in Yellowstone Park, and you're out in the really wild part of it, and you look over yonder and you see a bear, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you go over and you look at the bear, and the bear's not doing anything. The bear looks over at you. You just look at each other. The bear's content to go away. But you go over and you take a stick and you poke that bear. The bear goes, stop. Then you poke the bear again. And then you poke the bear again. And finally the bear kills you and eats you. Who did the wrong thing?
Yeah.
I'm against the guy who poked the bear with a stick.
Yep.
I am just like Scott Adams. The guy who poked the bear with a stick, to me, is participating in a University of Darwin class.
Yes.
And he's received his midterm grade.
Yes, which is you're done in this class.
It's also his final. It's also his final.
It's also his final exam. You were tasty, so thank you.
Darwin does things very, very efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Midterms are also finals. It's very
exactly.
It's very efficient.
One-stop shopping. But my point in saying this, is that no other nation in the world is held to the standard. Name one other country that is held to the standard.
They aren't.
There isn't one.
They aren't. I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again because there are people here in chat who were there that night. Not long before she died, Joan Rivers made the comment that, all right, let me give you an example. You live in New York City. New Jersey keeps lobbing rockets into the city. What do you think would have happened in that situation? Because I know what it would have been. New York would have glassed New Jersey.
Yeah.
I have some. Well, I don't know. It's a little bit in conflict, the information I have, with what Skep was saying, but only to the extent it makes the situation look even more ridiculous. So there was a gentleman who was a former advisor to Rabin, I believe, named Joel Rosenberg, who was on with Crowder yesterday. So he's pretty well connected. He was an American who now lives in Israel. And he was claiming that there were 4 families that were affected by this. 4. Now, if he's wrong, I mean, I'm citing my sources, maybe he's wrong. But for the sake of argument, let's say he's right. 4.
It is 4 families, but it's more people than that because the families are fairly large and they're all in there living like rats.
It's still 4 families. We're not talking about evicting.
He's actually right. It's just a few houses. It's
not a Tel Aviv-sized city.
Yeah, and there's a bit more. There's a bit more to it.
Yeah.
He was claiming that they had lived there, squatting, for about 70 odd years.
Okay, I thought it was more like 40, but maybe it is 70.
Yeah,
it can't be. No, it's not.
Well,
70.
Hold on, there's more. Now, he could be wrong. I mean, like I said, I'm citing my sources. It could be 40, could be 70. The other claim that he made was that the owners of the land were simply saying, "Look, you can stay there, but you got to pay rent," which is a different story from wanting to tear it down and rebuild and do whatever.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what the truth of it is. I'm just saying that here's a man who's well connected with a different narrative.
Well, no, he's not wrong, but here's what happened.
Well, hold on. I still haven't finished what I'm trying to say.
All right.
Okay. And as far as the not paying rent for all this time, they were extended the offer to simply pay rent or leave. And they simply refused to pay the rent. Now it's all you. That's everything I know.
That's all I was going to say was that they decided that they wanted to continue living as they had always lived, and they refused to recognize the ownership of property, and based on that, they were not going to pay rent, and that's what they said.
Yeah, so we're launching 4,000 rockets at a heavily populated area. Just because they land in the desert, that isn't the issue. The point is, every single one of those rockets could take out multiple lives.
Yes.
Every one. 4,000 rockets.
Yep.
Because 4 families didn't want to pay their rent.
Right.
Yep.
Talk about a disproportionate response, because it's not a proportionate response. It has nothing to. It's not even a response. It's an excuse. It's a pretext.
That's exactly right, because Jews are bad.
Absolutely right.
Israel's bad from the river to the sea.
Palestine shall be free.
Palestine be free, and it will be free of Jews. Put those Jews back in Europe and Ethiopia where they came from. Because dirty Jews.
I love that Ethiopian myth. I love that underlying.
What the fuck?
It's because there is a enclave of Ethiopian Jews.
I know.
There is this magical thinking that all Jews came from Ethiopia. Right. And it's a little bit like we were Kangs in reverse. It's just...
Well, the really cool thing is the Palestinians want to line up the Jews and then sort them into railway cars.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a very novel idea, isn't it?
People say it's been done before, but I say no. And God damn it!
You get a gold star, and you get a gold star, and I get a gold star.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so absurd. It's so wrong. It's so evil. It's so unjust. And the world sits there, and they want to take land, property, and lives away from a country that is 1/30 the size of Texas. You could put 30 Israels in Texas and have room for Lebanon. That's true. I actually did the arithmetic. It is absolutely fucking
infuriating. Think how rich Texas would be then. I mean, I'm not shitting you. Yeah. They'd manage to turn some of that scrub out west into holy shit.
That would be amazing.
It really would be, actually.
If Israel just decided to either Israel could just become part of Texas. That could just be a thing. Or all the people from Israel, we could just pick everything up of any value and the people and move it to Texas.
Yeah.
That would be great either way.
Man, that area would be fucked the moment that the desalination engineers left.
But you'd have two wonderful kinds of brisket in Texas then. That would be great.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, the food would be absolutely awesome. But I
some
finally have a
creplock,
decent delicatessen.
Skep's like, don't threaten me with a good time.
You could just hear somebody yelling down the street in Odessa, "Have some creplock, y'all!"
Yeah.
This is a side note, but I had my kids watch Schindler's List today.
That's cheerful.
12 and up. They had questions.
Naturally.
Yeah, I'd hope they did. Anybody who
Did they have questions or questions?
Oh, stop it! They're not all children of the corn.
Eric wants to know why the only thing in Calla was that little girl's ugly coat.
So you could recognize her when she was dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why.
And I had to explain that to him.
That's called a directorial conceit.
Did they basically Sin City the whole thing and just have color highlights and most of the rest is in black and white?
Yeah.
No, it was in. Yeah.
No, the
It was
little
in
girl in the
black
coat.
and
Yeah, I've
It's
never
more
seen
like
it.
high-end.
It's done as a stark.
There's virtually no color in the whole thing except for the little girl's dress.
Harry, have you ever seen the movie High and Low?
No,
Oh, okay, never mind.
I never go
Okay.
anywhere.
How
I
have
never
you
see
never
anything.
seen Schindler's List, Harry?
Because I haven't. I'm sort of acquainted with the story that it's based on. That was enough for me.
Yeah, that's.
I didn't need to see the
I am
movie
in the
version
exact.
of it.
I'm in the exact same position.
You don't watch this movie because you're in it for a good time. I have watched it.
No.
I have watched it twice, and I am reduced
I don't watch it
to tears anytime I see that because it is just absolutely such a tragic story. And when you realize the scope of how many people were affected by what the Germans chose to do, they chose to do all that. It just makes you give up hope. It really truly does. The first time I saw that movie, I was just I turned into a silent person for like days, which is very unusual for me. I'm one of the most verbal people you've ever met, and I was just in a completely reflective place, and very darkly reflective place. Just hurt by that.
I can give you a number of reasons why I haven't watched it. Primarily because I don't want to go to that place anymore. I've been there. I went there in high school when I was shown Night and Fog, even though at that point I had already seen the photographs my dad had.
Well, yeah, you have that different. You have
the clarity of what occurred in that time period in Germany. I don't remember not knowing it, which is, I mean, it's the peculiar nature of having been an only child of very verbal parents who were the age they were. I mean, I don't mean that at 8 years old I was being told Holocaust stories. It's just that things become part of your awareness. And then, and this is, I'm not trivializing Schindler's List, but I remember watching the dramatization of Herman Wouk's Winds of War.
Winds of War.
Sir John Gielgud's character.
Yep.
And that stuck, and that stuck hard and fast in my head. And I was like, do I really want to see an even better produced version of this?
I remember my mother was braiding my hair. She was doing like little tiny braids in my hair, and she was watching Schindler's List. And we got to the train,
Mm-hmm.
and I made her turn it off. I think I was like 8,
Yeah.
and I made her turn it off. I was like crying. I was like, I don't want to watch this movie.
Yeah,
There's no way to process the injustice.
No.
There's no way to process the lack of humanity.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult thing to stare into the abyss that time was.
I got to know a guy who was a child in Auschwitz. He was an Auschwitz survivor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk too much about this, but what I learned from this guy was something about embracing every day of life that you have. He told me some stories about what it was like in the camp. He was old enough to remember that.
Yeah.
And this was a guy who, because of something with work, I actually got to spend a lot of time with. I went to dinner with him. We had drinks together. We flew on airplanes together. And when you think of the human capital that was snuffed out by the Nazi regime, they killed 1/2 of the Jews in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They killed half the people. They almost got it done.
Yes.
They and I don't mean injured. I don't mean insulted. I mean killed.
Yep.
They murdered 1/2 of a people.
And they had fun doing it too. That's what's fucked up.
Well, actually, that's a complicated thing. But don't get in.
Yeah.
Focus with me on what the cost to the world was. There were and all this guy did. He was penniless after World War II. He and his mother survived the camp, and he, she died when he was like 18. 7 or 8 years after the war was over, and he went on to found a very successful company. He made millions of dollars, and he was, just grateful for every day that he had in the world. And everybody loved this guy because his attitude was so good, so positive, so much of the time. I loved him too. But he had a tattoo on his arm. Yeah. They really did tattoo the arm.
Yeah, I had a teacher that had the tattoo. I have one very focused question, and if it's okay to ask.
Sure.
If I met this man and I could ask him, the thing I would really want to know about was when he was basically liberated. Because as I understand it, the Nazis knew that everything was screwed, and they just got the hell out.
Right.
And then the Americans showed up. I can hardly imagine what that must have been like. Did they just wake up one day not knowing what was happening, and then suddenly the Nazis were just gone?
Yes, that's the way. He asked his mother where the soldiers were, and she said they're gone, and she told him there would be other soldiers. He doesn't remember that. He didn't remember. We didn't talk that much about it, but I don't think he remembered that much about it.
Well, good. I'm glad he was young enough that he didn't remember every single detail of it.
Yeah. But they just basically bugged out. They killed a whole bunch of people before they did.
Yeah.
And then
they killed as many as they had time to.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what they did.
Yeah, exactly. But they were ordered not to abandon their post and to be killing people the moment, they were taken over. And they didn't do that. They quit killing. That probably is why he survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the younger and the women would have been easier to round up and kill too. Which is why they were so often the ones done in early, because if you were deemed old enough to work or capable, at your age of working. You made it. If not, you were culled, so to speak.
He had an interesting habit that he picked up. He would after the liberation, even when he was like in high school, and he went to college briefly, a couple of years of college. He would, if he saw a nail on the ground, he'd put it in his pocket. Anything worked metal, he had like a fetish for it to pick it up and save it because it might be useful.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that went back to something his mother had told him, but he didn't know what it was. He just said, it took me a long time to break myself of that habit.
I've got a drawer in my kitchen he'd love.
Yeah.
Me too, Harry. Me too.
The-
He's passed on now, by the way. But I just wanted to. I like relaying his story to the world.
It's
Yeah, needless to say, there's a bunch of things I'm not saying because I don't want to turn Prospero stream into the atrocity stream.
Yeah.
But I did have 2 teachers at university. One had the tattoo on his arm, and the other one was a German fellow who was captured by the Russians and survived the Russian POW camps.
Oh my God, that's unusual.
Yeah,
I mean,
one of the sweetest, gentlest, kindest people you could ever hope to meet. You know, because regular people got swept up in this thing.
Yes.
Not
Many
everybody, not even everybody in Germany even knew what was happening, from as I understand it. I mean, I know
Yes.
a lot of people did, but also a lot of people really didn't because they were being just showered with propaganda. I mean, they knew people were being rounded up, but I don't know if they knew what was happening to them.
Harry, after stream, remind me of what you just said. I have a question
Okay.
that I will not ask on air.
Thank you. The
These things called DMs, Sanguine.
This reminds me.
there's just this. Well, make a note. It's what the rest of us have to do. See, don't put the burden on the person that you want to ask the question.
No, saying it reminds me.
I
I
know.
don't know. I do that to my girlfriend all the time.
We do this, and we do this in our household too. I'm like,
Yeah.
remind
Remind
me. Well, why don't you make a note for crap's sakes? Because it's easier to tell you to remind me.
I'll just lose the note.
Yeah, that's. Why do you have 10 strings tied around your fingers? I have trouble counting. I don't remember. I told you to tell me why.
This 10th one's to remind me what the 9th one was.
Yeah, I did see someone say, and I don't remember on Twitter, and it got a little echoing, but nothing like the other nonsense. So much for never forget, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's
Rashid Tlaib wants every Jew in Israel dead,
of course she does, and
she said so in a Facebook post that she deleted.
And she gets congratulations for her strong stances.
From that dementia, I can't actually drive. The person next to me was driving lunatic in the office.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious. What the hell is going on with that second steering wheel?
Beep, 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 beep. It's a car seat. That's all it is.
It seriously reminds me of, we have, I think it's at, I can't remember if it's at the grocery store or at the department store, one of the two. There's a shopping cart that has a steering wheel in it for kids. Mm-hmm. And it literally reminds me of that.
Yes.
It's just, look at me, I'm driving the car too.
Yeah,
Yay!
my car seat, which was more like a car hops tray,
Yeah.
went over the window, the
Yeah.
old school. Yeah, that's mine went over the bench seat.
Yeah.
In other words, it was a child catapult.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's how they made them in the day. It had a steering wheel.
How else are you going to lob the tyke for distance?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I had one of those too. Those were you'd basically be driving along and you could pretend you were driving and
Yes.
had like a little thing you could push for the horn and
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those were cool.
I was legend in my tiny family for having fallen asleep. You know how kids do in their car seat, chin on the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had to hit the horn, and my head popped up, and I hit my little horn, and I went beep beep, yes, so beep.
Oh, I think they do that in the
adorable.
opening to The Simpsons too. Now that I think about it, doesn't little Maggie the baby
Yep.
have one of those?
Yeah.
Because the car goes
So that's
Not
what we're
a
talking
baby,
about,
she
folks.
should be 35 by now.
It's not verisimilitude; it's a cartoon. But the coyotes don't know how to use dynamite. The
Bunnies can't hook up electricity and bombs to piano keys. They just-
That is one of my endearing young charms is the name of that song, and it is really tragic that I know this, but that is the influence that Warner Brothers had.
And they might be able to complete the circuit for a very short period of time.
if they themselves are the completion art.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's just, oh my God, what a
It was the
world.
most morbid thing I could say, so I went for it.
Yeah, thank you. And I went right along with you, which is not speaking to my mental health. Yeah, let's pivot because talking about the Holocaust makes me angry and sad, and I don't want to be angry and sad. It's all about me.
Yeah, we could just talk about great children's toys that we all had for the next hour and a half.
No kidding. I had a dashboard that had the steering wheel and like little buttons and shit that you could push that I thought was the bomb. So much for, I didn't do too hot with the baby dolls. But
did you keep finding them upside down in buckets?
No, I was not a particularly morbid child, which is why I think some people were horrified when I took to the Gashly Crumb Tinies the way I did as an adult.
I had a really cool toy when I was growing up. You know what it was? It was a 22 rifle.
Nice.
Ooh. Was it a Red Rider?
No.
Did it have a
Winchester.
knurled stock?
It was little. It was a Winchester, and I remember shooting 22 shorts, the little tiny stubby ammunition, and shooting target shooting with it. Baby's first gun. God, what was I? Probably 9 years old. Something like that.
Those are the ones with the smaller powder charge that you just use for targets. Yeah, those are fun. They don't make a ton of noise
tick,
either.
Tick, tick. Yeah, exactly.
those are great.
Yeah, those are and they'll kill a fella. They will absolutely kill a fella.
Theoretically, with those, I mean, certainly the regular 22 long. And I'm not a gun person. Don't get me wrong. I know there's people in chat who know way more than I do. But as I understand it, that thing will travel a long damn way.
You can
22 is
with a regular powder charge with 110 grains of powder will travel a mile.
Yeah, there's a lot of unintended consequences. Yeah, I know the potential for unintended consequences with a 22 with 22 long ammunition are large.
I'll tell you another neat thing about 22s, and that is it's a skinny round, and that means it makes it go through things easily.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Doesn't lose a lot of kinetic energy by having a lot of mass in the front, or side aspect, a big side aspect that all the energy crashes into. It's quite small, and momentum being a thing. That thing is motoring and carrying some force.
I shot my grandpa's 22 a lot at the cottage when I was a kid. I still have my my 2 pop cans that I hit.
Carbine?
I think so. I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
it was a long gun.
Yeah, it was a rifle. Yeah. My dad. So and we still do this up at the cottage for target shooting. It like my dad would position me when I was a kid, and now Pink Hollow does it. And we just line me up with the target, call off the dogs and the kids, and okay, go.
Well, shooting pistols is fine, and in and of itself can be very relaxing. But I think long gun target shooting is extremely relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
It's
it's a completely different.
The mechanics of it are entirely different, but there is because of the shorter barrel of a pistol, it's. I mean, my aim is better with a long gun.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's is.
It just is, and my sense of relaxation because of the posture
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
is better. And I just found it very absorptive, and highly entertaining. And
You
it
ever
was
shot a shotgun?
yes, indeed. I found that highly entertaining too, for a very different reason.
Yeah, it's. I find it, it's fun to obliterate things.
Yeah,
I have an upside baby. I have to go.
okay.
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 See you later.
Bye, Jenna.
This is one of the funnest days I ever had. We took our financial planner, because he liked guns, with us, and we took Thunder Kitty, which is our Mossberg, and all three of us with one target, tatted lace.
Nice.
It was exquisite when we brought that target back, because it had stayed clipped to the board, which was extraordinary in and of itself.
What were you shooting? Were you shooting birdshot, or were you shooting buckshot, or what?
I think he had both bird and buck with him. I had not fired the Mossberg, so this was my dry run. I can't shoulder fire it for love nor money. The kick just hurts, so I underarm fired it.
Oh.
How'd that work out for you?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Even though I have been told on a number of occasions that you can't aim that way, I put the first round I fired that way, dead center mass. Nice, lovely hole. And Cree was like, hey, good. Because that's the purpose, to make sure I could hit what I was aiming at. And then we began roaming the target to pepper it. And it literally looked like a spider web when we brought it back. It was actually.
How long is the barrel on your Mossberg?
Oh,
Or do you know?
I don't know.
If you don't know. Most
don't
people
know
don't know.
offhand.
I'm just curious.
I don't know offhand.
I have still yet to shoot a shotgun. That is not something I have done yet.
You'd like it.
Yeah.
The blam is very satisfying. There's something about it. When our financial planner fired it the first time, he turned around with a grin on his face, and I could hear him even through the ears. Well, obviously I hear through my ears, but through the protective earwear.
Yeah.
Just this maniacal laugh, because he was like, "What?" and then
That's
just
awesome.
turned down range and fired again. You know, I mean, it was. He said, "This is awesome." And it just
Is it a pump action shotgun?
Yeah.
There's something satisfying
Yes.
about jacking around into the chamber.
Because it's the ratcheting. Well, as everybody said, one of the reasons a shotgun's a very good home defense weapon is that ratcheting sound.
That sound is not mistakable.
It is distinctive, and if you've got any sense, you plots and then you run, because even if it doesn't kill you, it's going to hurt like merry hell, and that's the sound. It's alone makes it effective.
It's just sinister as hell.
Yeah, and it's also an extremely easy weapon to use for self-defense because it doesn't require hyper precision, shall we say.
They're also easy to clean, which as a gun owner with more than one gun, I appreciate.
You just rope that son of a bitch. It's like, you floss the barrel, and it's
I've
like,
taken semi-automatics apart that it's a chore. It's a labor of love, but it's a chore.
Had I not been so proficient in profanity, being married to a person who enjoys target shooting, I would have really brushed up my game based solely on disassembling and reassembling a handgun.
Yeah.
Goddamn rail won't get back. It's that kind of, because there's some of them are much more finicky. than
Yeah.
others.
I
And
remember Grandpa. I remember I smelling the gun oil,
Mhm.
and then you
Yeah.
hear fuck.
Yeah.
It stays on your
Son of a
fingernails for like
bitch.
3 days afterwards.
It's just-
After you clean your gun.
Cree got a mat because he said he was tired of getting gunpowder residue all over the bathroom counter. Because he was trying to figure out when we move where his chosen place to clean weapons will be. And I was like, I have a card table in the attic. We'll take it with us. Have at it. I don't care.
One thing, this is not a commercial for Glock, but I bought a Glock semi-automatic 9mm, and it's the bomb. It's a Glock 19. It's the classic, home defense full-size Glock, full-size grip with the medium-sized barrel,
And it's so
not
light.
super long barrel,
It's
but
so light.
so light, and you can pull the thing apart in about 3 moves, clean it, and throw it back together, and it's just Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt. It's just bam, bam, bam. It's so easy. I love that gun so much. It's my everyday carry.
What caliber are those?
9mm.
9mm.
What I have. I mean, you can have it jacketed for something else if you want, or that's basically what their other models are. They sell them. They sell
make a
40, 45, 38, 22, 25 cal. They will chamber your weapon however you want, and like I said, they have ready-made models with model numbers that they'll sell you, so you can buy any caliber of weapon basically you want from Glock, and you'll get a fine handgun. People say, well, I'm not, there's plastic on the inside. I know.
Yeah,
There's the part of the receiver is plastic, and that's if you feel that plastic, it feels like metal. The plastics have, this is not 1955. Plastics are a mature, highly chemically engineered technology, and it works.
Tempered.
I've had this one.
I've
had this gun for 10 years.
Yeah, the thing I like about it, by comparison to our CZ, is the weight difference.
Yeah, CZ is a big gun.
With the magazine in it, the CZ is heavy.
Which magazine do you have? How many rounds?
CZ. It's been several years since I fired that.
That's okay. I was just curious because the number of rounds that you pack into the handle, into the mag, is it has a lot to do with the weight of the weapon.
I'm trying to remember. I
have an oversized mag, and I can make my Glock really heavy.
Yeah, you can, but it's even by comparison, it's lighter than the CZ. Because just the weight of the CZ unloaded is significantly different.
It's like I said, it's a big, heavy monster gun.
The thing I liked about the Glock is there's enough pound pressure required on the trigger that it's not one of. I mean, okay, I wouldn't put it in my purse. Which is
you get the 29 for that.
That's a particular bug.
That's what Katie carries.
Yeah, but it's an obnoxious as shit.
Nice little ladies, and it's got the 15-round magazine in an undersized handle, so it fits in her purse, and she can carry a smaller mag if they're not misbehaving at work.
The pound pressure for trigger pull should be a measurement that women use based as to whether they're going to shove something in their purse.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't require a great deal of pull, because a lot of these guns don't have the safety that you have to actually physically change with your thumb. Like
a Glock, for example.
Like a Glock, which it's so funny because the first time I picked up the Glock, I was like, "Where the fuck's the safety increase?" Like, it's basically the trigger, honey.
Well, no, it's a half cock.
It's a half cock, yeah. But I mean, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
He was saying there isn't one, and I was like,
"Yeah, it's trigger discipline." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, seriously, he said, "Yeah." He said so. He said you already know not to pick up the weapon by the trigger, and I was like, "Yeah, but man, I could see people fucking up if they purse carried this."
Oh, people are just amazing.
Yeah, they are. They're remarkably
We've seen people
stupid.
get thrown off gun ranges because they do something stupid, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I have stubby fingers, and it can be difficult for me to keep my index finger away, if you know what I'm saying, having short fingers. But you just do it, you know, because the gun is always loaded, even if, I mean, it's rule number 1.
Yep.
Rule. It should be rule number 1 through 100. Again, here I am repeating myself, but the very first lesson I was given is all weapons are loaded, and if you ever aim a weapon at someone, whether you meant to or not, shoot them, they have the right to remove that weapon from you and beat you about the head and shoulders with it.
Yep.
Well, the rule that in gun safety that you'll get and is that you don't ever point a weapon at something you don't want to destroy.
Yes.
The only thing you ever point a weapon as at something you intend to shoot right then.
Yes. And it is absolutely maddening in some dealers. This happened to me when Cree was looking for. Oh, this was ages ago when the AR first sold out, and I mean 10 years ago. I don't know which. Could have been Sandy Hook. You know, you couldn't get your hands on an AR because everybody was buying them. The perverse thing is if you start scolding people about something, you should never own that, they're going to go and buy it. So he was looking at a Mini 14, and he wanted to see whether I could hold the weapon. So we were in this store. It's a chain of outdoor stores, pretty well known. And I'm trying to sight this son of a bitch, and people keep walking in front of me.
Oh, God.
And so I would pull up, and then I would come back down. And the guy stopped. One guy stopped, and he said, "You can see the big red trigger guard on it." And I said, "Don't interrupt me doing the right thing. Don't walk in front of me when I'm trying to sight it. I can't aim it into the store. I have this limited area here. There's not like a dressing room where I can try the thing on. And you keep walking in front of me. The purpose for me to sight this is at shoulder length, not aiming up at the fucking ceiling."
Okay.
And it was very irritating. Really irritating, because it was a very cavalier manner of not recognizing that, you know, you have somebody trying to do the right thing and you all but mock them for it. It's like, that's dumb, sir.
Yep.
Yes, I can see the bloody red tag. It's plain as day.
That's not the point.
That's not the point.
And on that note, I need to go to bed.
Well then. Well then.
I'm going to head out, but thank you for having me. And please join me tomorrow for the coffee stream at 12 p.m. on YouTube. And I'll be also on Twitch gaming. I'll be starting at 11 because I'm just going to assume the kids are not going to be asleep by 10:30. So I'm going to start at 11 p.m. and I'm trying to organize a bunch of blind and low vision players to play with. So it should be fun.
So you're not going to play the alpha version of Cuckold Simulator? Have you heard about that game?
No,
God.
I have not. I should look into it.
Oh, you should definitely look into it.
Just
good
for a
Lord.
laugh.
I think it'll look much the same as most games do to you, though.
Oh, shut up, you. All right, guys.
Good
You
night.
guys have a great night.
Night,
Good night,
Vicky.
my
Thanks for
friend.
being
Good
here.
night.
Have a good one.
Oh my god!
Did you hear about Cuckold Simulator?
No, please
No,
tell us.
I've never heard it.
Okay, so it's
what is
another one of
this?
those Steam games. It's you can get the pre-release version for a few bucks. Jeremy Hambley and a few other people have talked about it because it is hilarious. So this guy with no chin basically has this plus-sized wife who mostly just abuses him. Just takes all the money he earns. When he goes to work, he basically works in this office, but his desk is in a cage, the wage slave 9,000 cage.
The wagey cagey.
And he's just constantly being surrounded by kids that don't look like him. And he's got his wife's bull keeps coming in and abusing him too. And he's got no chin. And he wears it like a fedora. It is so bad. And there's some DLC for it. For an extra $1, you can get a pleated surgical face mask that he can wear when he runs around being cuckolded.
Oh god!
So
why would anyone spend any time doing anything with whatever this is you're describing?
Because it's funny, I guess.
yeah, it's funny, and they can just try to figure out, okay, which games programmer or games journalist is this based on the life story of?
Yeah.
It's reached that point, hasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's not from the same people that brought you Attack Helicopter Dating Simulator, which I still think is my favorite fake game.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is going to be one that if you haven't heard about it yet, somebody will bring it up. But the $1 for the mask DLC, I think, is really good. You can you can taste the sarcasm.
Yeah.
But back to what Prospero was saying. One of the things they teach you when you go to the special class so you won't die on your motorcycle quite so readily is you always do things the same way each time. So when you brake, you don't just lazily pretend you're on a big Harley and just kind of like tickle the rear brake, which is what a lot of those guys will kind of do because you can. It's easy. You know, you're not stopping all that. It's not an emergency. Just use the rear brake. Just twitch your foot and slow the big beastie down. But that's not what you want to do. You don't want there to be your slack habits that you have most of the time, and then double secret special emergency braking when it really counts.
Yes.
When shit gets bad, you don't want to think about it. You
Want to have
just,
it in muscle memory.
You want to have it muscle memory. That's why when stuff really matters, you don't half-ass it. You always do it the right way every time.
Yeah,
you don't point a
so
gun at
right.
something you're not willing to kill.
Yeah.
My God, yes,
You know,
exactly.
and you keep, you don't just sit there doing God knows what with your cup holder or I don't know, whatever people do when they're being idiots on motorcycles. You keep your hands on the brakes. You stay aware, and you don't spend a bunch of time talking on the phone, and all the other stuff. You have to actually. It's a very deliberate act if you do it correctly, and the same should be true with
actively
guns.
drive the motorcycle.
Yeah,
Don't-
when you're working with guns, it should be a very deliberate, very active thing that you're doing, and you should be fully engaged in it.
you know how,
There's a strange formality to it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Prospero.
no, what I was going to say is it's quite like if you're using a bandsaw. There's a right way to use it, and there is the way that people lose their hands.
Well, you can concuss yourself with a table saw or a circular saw pretty easily. People have no clue what
Yes.
kickback is.
Right.
Yeah. And, why do you use feeder wood with a table saw? Why do you do X, Y, Z?
Affinity for fingers.
Yeah, because shit can go south instantaneously. And I don't care how fast you think your quick twitch muscle response is. It's not that fast. I actually know somebody who damn near lost their hand. They were using feeder wood, but a knot caught and pitched and threw their hand that quickly. And this was a skilled furniture builder. Threw their hand forward, and before he could pull back, across the knuckles of his hand had made contact.
I have a story.
saw.
I have a story to trade with you over that, and it's very similar to your story. This was a guy on my ship. He worked in the laundry, but he was my leading petty officer among the Filipinos. He was a first class, that's the next step below chief. He was in there, and he was really efficient. He was amazing. Guzman was awesome, and as a performer, and he could press shirts like nobody's business. I mean, he could do everything the ship storage specialist is supposed to do, but pressing shirts was something he was absolutely amazing at. And I walked in one time, and I told him, I said, "What have you done with the safety on that? There's a thing that requires you to use two hands on the press to make the press come down, so you can't possibly put your hand under the hot press, which is this giant hot plate that comes down and will burn the shit out of your hand." He had defeated the safety, so he could, do quick little touch-ups, on like cuffs and stuff. And he did brilliant work on the press. Well, he caught his hand in that press one day, and he was out of action for 3 fucking months, and I didn't get a replacement. We went shorthanded for 3 months while Guzman's hand got well, and his skin graft took, before he was back in commission. And he was in charge of so much. It was just an absolute fucking nightmare, and it pisses me off to this day that he disobeyed my order, and people, it was one of those judgment calls. People told me you should write his ass up and make an example out of him, but I needed him too badly down there, and I told him pretty exact terms what I thought of his little maneuver, and he was terribly regretful about it. That was another reason I didn't write him up. But he would have been busted down to second class, and lots of bad things would have happened to him.
He'd already paid the price, I think, for the
well, he had. Plus, it earned me a very, very motivated first class working for me the rest of my tour.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you. I mean, and I think I've
learned a weird silver lining, but it was, and it was nothing.
And he's lucky he didn't lose the hand.
He was fucking lucky not to lose that hand. Yeah. He burned almost all of his little off.
Daggone it.
Have you guys seen the fairly new, just like maybe half a decade, if that, old safety table saws that they've come out with?
Mm-mm.
I have. They're really sweet.
Yeah, those are insane.
Makita makes one, and I think also, gosh, is it actually Skill? There's one of the more expensive ones, but those systems are amazing. But you go.
So they're designed in such a way that I think they run a current through the blade. Is that right, Harry?
Yeah, it detects the chain. Basically, anything moist that hits the blade will trigger it. You can test it with a hot dog.
Yep, and you can watch these videos of them testing these saws. They're amazing. It won't save a finger. It'll save a hand. So when you see these saws, they're designed so that it has this current running through that'll detect any sort of moistness effectively, as Harry just said, and it will immediately retract the blade down into the table. It bricks the entire table saw, so you have to replace it. At least the first generations did, because it's
gas powered. It uses like one of those little CO2 cylinders type things.
Okay.
And and like an airbag, when it deploys, you have to essentially pay the stupid fine and say, oh, you have to pay $50 to basically rearm this device. But it has a compressed gas cylinder that actually pushes that thing down at super high speed.
Yep.
Okay, I've got a question about this. How does this defeat things like changes in humidity and stuff?
Harry might be able to answer that.
Well, I mean, I don't think it would ground to anything if it was just a change in humidity.
Okay. So it's a grounding thing and not a change in electromotive resistance.
Well, also, if you touch the blade while you whisper your secrets, L. Ron Hubbard finds out what they are.
But yeah,
that's always been true.
Yeah.
The first gen ones that I saw had a second part, which was the part that absolutely bricked the system after it fired. And it was a much, much softer metal, like lead or something along those lines, that it would immediately, as it dropped the blade would sink into that to stop it entirely. So it bricked the system due to that. But they're insane watching the videos and tests of them, because it is just, they'll be pushing the block of wood with a hot dog on top, and it'll hit the hot dog, and the blade immediately launches into the table.
Cannibalistic Wizard said not just moist, anything that interrupts the current metal flesh. They had them in his high school.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful piece of technology, and the saw manufacturers get happy, grateful people that then give them more money.
Yep.
Because usually it's like, how do we make table saws into a subscription model?
Yeah.
Right.
Here you go. Here's your
How do we
airbag.
make it a consumable?
Yeah, but I mean, it is a win-win. It's a win for the manufacturer, and it's a win for the person owning it.
The manufacturer now gets to sell new CO2 kits, and when it was the old ones, a new lump of lead and saw blade.
But the good news is you don't need a new hand.
Yep.
That
Like
makes
I said,
woodworking shop
Yeah, but
a
this
whole lot
doesn't-
more insurable, so to speak.
It doesn't save you from being concussed by having the board hit you in the head.
yep.
But it does at least keep all your digits where they belong.
I got a helmet.
Yeah. And they're absolutely insane looking. Also, there was something that I wanted to bring up. It was Cannibalistic Wizard was asking a question back when the gun talk was going on. Though I think it was a bit charitable to Skep, because he was asking both Skep and you, Prospero, what was your first flintlock as a child? And I think he forgot that matchlocks existed. So Skep, what was your first matchlock?
Well, it was probably something that we just put together down on the farm, because back then people made their own weapons. They literally constructed their own guns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, just figured I'd share.
Gun with no name.
Yeah, if the Hallmark never mind. I was going to make a really bad pun. I don't know why I feel like I need to fill in for Geodes. We need to get Geodes on so I don't have to do this.
It's a thankless
It was
job,
the
but nobody has
Hallmark,
to do
not
it.
Lifetime. For a moment there, I was thinking, wait, did he just say Lifetime? That just means a woman's getting beaten with a rod and crying about it.
No, I was just thinking about Matlock, and I was spinning it into a joke.
Okay.
But
Actually, my answer is
Long way to go.
because I was a privileged
I can do it.
only child. I had a Manton and Sons set of percussion dueling pistols.
Nice.
Thank you.
I've lost all of my weapons in a tragic boating accident. So
All my
I don't
toasters
have
fell
any.
overboard,
Yeah.
and it made me
Yeah.
sad.
That's the thing. We don't even own a gun anymore.
I know.
This
We don't
was
have a
back-
single one in the house.
Because at one point, California had water, and we had lakes, and then we had boating accidents.
Sure.
That was before the fires, right?
It's almost like the guns jump into the water.
Yeah,
They want to
it's-
be free, you
There's
know.
a big magnet at the bottom of the
Swim free,
lake,
little.
and I keep forgetting the magnet's there. And every
Yeah.
time we get a new gun and we go out fishing with the gun, because you have to do that because there's bear, the guns just leap overboard because of the magnet.
Well, if
It's-
it doesn't come back, it was never really yours to begin with.
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
The lake wanted its gun back.
I know it's in some watery bent keeps demanding my weapons.
The lady of the lake is very well armed.
I was just gonna, Morgana, is that you, dear?
Yeah, because see, that's a much easier joke. It's one line.
Yeah.
It would have taken three to have three. It would have taken three
For
sentences to get to
Matlock, yeah.
matchlock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shouldn't try to strain myself too much. It's only Thursday. I've got more week to go.
Yeah. Gotta save some powder for Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, good times. So where do you want this thing to go, Prospero?
I don't give a shit.
You don't give a shit.
Yeah, I host tomorrow night, So you're getting
Okay.
you're getting low rent me both nights. It's just this is how it works.
We'll be back doing this again tomorrow night, folks.
Doesn't
Tune
that
in.
sound exciting?
No, it'll be good. We have fun.
Well, it's funny though. We started off, saying that maybe we would talk about toys that we had when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Instead,
actually did it.
Well, we actually shifted to toys we have as an adult.
Well, I had a 22 when I was a kid. That was
Yeah.
you know.
That was
And-
the segue.
Well, my dad actually would refer to that as a toy.
Yes.
He said it's, I remember he talked about it. He said, there's some toys that are serious. He was explaining to me in terms I could understand. And this is a serious toy. We only use it when I'm with you and, do this together.
Well, like chemistry sets were serious toys.
Yeah.
I mean, serious toys back when we were young, Skep.
I had 4.
Did any of them have
Did you
radioactive
frag every
material?
one of them?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. I did the cloud chamber. I totally did the cloud chamber.
Because that's the thing that I still find absolutely hilarious about old school science kits. You could get one that had radioactive material.
Yeah, but it was very low grade radioactive
was.
material. It was just like
It was ore basically.
yeah, but it was like really really low grade uranium ore.
Yes,
It's
it
fine.
was, but that's a hell of a lot more than you can get in a child's science kit now.
We
They don't
should
sell yellow cake to children anymore.
we should have known that because they put those in the kits that sitting close to the TV wasn't a good idea.
I keep a little thorium vial with some phosphor on my keychain, and it's a really bright one too. So I basically I have radiation attached to my keychain.
I was just going to say you're like an alpha emitter.
So
Damn.
that's why you don't have any children.
That's
I'm
why.
impressed.
That's right. I keep one on each side,
Yeah.
so I can get each testy.
I took both of them out with a keychain. It wasn't as interesting as people would think.
Feeling a little testy these days. Yeah. Anyway. Once we're in the mood
You
for
can't
puns.
get the D because you've got low T. Isn't that the way that song goes? I forget.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just concerned because that means that only people with high T get the D. Why are you fucking men with high T? Or women with high T? Why are you fucking just people with high T?
I forget. I don't know. It's not my damn song. So here's Cuckold Simulator, if anybody cares.
Nice.
Oh my
I
God!
want to see this.
Would you like to see this?
Let me.
Since we have no agenda, I don't have to worry about derailing your show.
She
No,
is
no.
really plus sized.
Let me embiggen you. Hang on.
Make him.
There we go.
All right.
All
There we
right.
go. Wait. Hit play. Okay. So there he is getting home. There's his kid.
That's a demon
Chip
baby.
off the old block. There's. This is.
His NPC best friend, I'm guessing.
Yeah. There he is getting home.
Wait, that's his son.
Yeah. Well, sort
Okay.
of.
Is that it? So
There's his abusive wife. There's his car with the Biden-Harris license plate. I mean, no
And the
wonder.
California tag saying cuckold.
Oh my God.
His kids all disrespect him.
Hey, bitch, you're on TV.
So he's trying to talk to the anime girl. No, ooh, you're boring and ugly, and you're broke.
Nice.
There's
Wage
his
cage.
workstation.
This is amazing.
This is beautiful.
That is absolutely.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah, well, that is Cuckold Simulator. Look at the no chin. Isn't that great?
I know that's just marvelous.
That is absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So I'm still wondering which games journo or games programmer is this based on the autobiography of?
I'm not saying shit.
Because that sort of realism.
And does it have anything to do with Five Guys?
So what is that exactly? Is that a real game or is that just a fake game that
This is a game you can literally buy the pre-release version of it on Steam.
Real fake game.
It's
okay, this is a Steam
it's a
game.
it's an early access game on Steam. It's all of $2.
Oh my god.
Magnificent.
Yeah.
The way they did the chin and the little Adam's apple almost crawling to the chin is just the
That is
the
glorious.
sideburns that give up and the
Yeah.
tiny ears with almost an elfin peak. That's just the inappropriately long nose, and the very short amount of space between the upper lip and the base of the nose is there's just so much right about this. They just did such a good job.
And noodly armed.
Noodly arm and glasses, of course, the whole deal.
And a bad haircut.
Yeah.
This definitely falls into the realm of what I like to call real fake games.
Yes.
And
Playable
Somebody had
vaporware.
Way too much fun making this.
playable vaporware. That's exactly right.
Yeah. All reviews. Currently, in terms of the reviews, it's very positive with 391 reviews.
Imagine my shock.
Yeah, I know.
What's not to love?
I just think that's great.
And I'm also just trying to figure out who's going to try to sue them.
Have you seen Attack
Everyone.
Helicopter Dating Simulator?
No.
Would you
No,
like to?
I have not.
Yes,
Oh,
I
yes.
would like
I would
to
like to
see
see
that.
Okay,
that.
let me
Amuse us,
switch
Harry.
this for a moment,
Thank
and
you, Harry.
while I search for Attack Helicopter Dating Simulator. Hold on.
You can tell Nana was not super angry today because I didn't come armed for bear for the show at all. It was just kind of like, we'll find something to talk about, and this is perfect.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need that palate cleanser of random bullshit.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we talked about some serious stuff at the beginning, so
Yep.
I feel like I have...
We did our work. It's time to fuck off.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of nice. It's just, like Harry has said, reaction streaming was everybody and their uncle for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot to react to. Curating it down to the things that are not getting the kind of coverage that they need is the tough part.
Mm-hmm.
Harry does a brilliant job of that every Saturday. Listen up, chat. If you want to see someone curate that which is worth responding to in the news, Saturday nights are pretty impressive. And Skep always has meat on the bones of his streams. I apparently have given up. It's just...
Do it joyfully.
Yeah, but I'm doing it joyfully. Oh my.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like I should recognize that.
Okay, now it looks more like Sim City. Before it was making me think of...
Nice.
That's Kiowa.
Just anthropomorphize military vehicles and date them.
Linda, this is getting weird.
Yeah. Attack
This isn't some shitty visual novel.
Attack Helicopter Dating Simulator.
This is amazing. This also falls in that category of real fake games.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because, I mean, this amuses me. I love this, but the ladies call me Hind.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, God bless
Okay.
these people, though. 'Cause that's wonderful.
There you go.
Take the meme and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
What did they think? Just, oh my goodness.
And
That's
the
all
thing.
I have for you.
That's
When
wonderful.
it comes to entertainment, it should be enjoyable. It should be just there's different sorts of entertainment. There's different sorts of media. But one part that should be something that is allowed to be is just the fucking fun category.
Yes. Yeah, too many people seem to be in lots of walks in life. It's almost like what's popular on Pinterest. It's like I need to be playing the thing that everybody else is playing. No, you need to be playing what you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
It is a game. It is not a keep up with the Joneses. It is not a...
Though that was a terrible game.
But you know what I mean.
Yes.
I'd like to see people have opinions about things, again, that are something other than politics. Because we have people armed for bear with their opinions about politics. But I have heard from people who do interior design work that if you ask people for their opinions on home decorating, decor, color schemes, things like that, it's like prying teeth. They don't have an opinion. They want to know what's popular.
See, that would not be the case for me. I would be talking about, I want fucking 1800s explorer house.
Well, it's an absence, I think, of almost what I would call self-possession.
Mm-hmm.
Where you have your own opinions. And I remember telling people that I was resistant to popular culture back in the 1980s. Working in the bookstore made me very resistant to reading certain novels in particular. Because
Please don't tell me you were one of those, why would you ever read fantasy people?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just making sure, because that argument...
No. Like I said,
you will draw me into the conversation very quickly.
I was resistant to popular culture, so things that were outside of what everyone else was doing appealed to me instantaneously. So I actually, from working in the bookstore, began reading science fiction and fantasy, which had not really been in my, outside of Jules Verne,
Mm-hmm.
or like that kind of thing, or fables had not been my my normal stomping grounds. So it, but I couldn't understand why people who had read White's The Once and Future King would turn up their nose at somebody reading fantasy, because the Arthurian legend has been fantabulized to the extent of, but it's actually based on Raman, and it's like, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all literature is derivative, but the it was the what's on the New York Times bestseller is what I must be reading because I need to be au courant and in the know.
Well, it's because what you read is what you want to be able to brag about at the cocktail party.
Yeah, but there's no self-possession to that. There's no personal interest. It's just that you've ticked a box.
Right.
And by God, that's like, one of the true joys about graduating from schooling is you get to read for your own pleasure. You're not reading because somebody's going to test you on it, or you're not reading because you have to write a paper on the goddamn book. That is the quickest way to suck joy out of a book for me, is to say this is required reading.
Yep.
Because then it becomes a task as opposed to a pleasure. And it's very difficult to make a task a pleasure. It could be done. I mean, in certain things, they were great choices of assigned. I'm not saying that we shouldn't encourage certain reading in school by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that. I think kids need to be exposed to a wide variety of literature. But if they get to do an independent book review, book report, something like that, let them pick what they want to read. You don't want to make reading just a box to tick. Just like I mean, Vincent Price wrote a book called I Know What I Like, and it was about what he collected, because he had quite an extensive art collection.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a valuable art collection. But it wasn't, he collected things because all the right people told him that's what he should be collecting. He had a good eye. But he collected what he liked.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't being a poser. And this isn't a new problem. It's a new problem in that it's extending to all kinds of things now. I mean, there used to be, as far as art collecting, there was always that social pressure to be in the know about what was valued among the intelligentsia.
Mm-hmm.
The same with literature and poetry. But when it's reduced to what color you paint the walls inside your home, you have surrendered all autonomy.
Mm-hmm. But that happens so often, and it's like you mentioned, the people that read off of the bestsellers list or based off critics' reviews. That so often ends up with one of two things. You end up with the pretentious critic list, which they go for artsy-fartsy in order to be artsy-fartsy. And you end up with the lowest common denominator. That's the reason why 50 Shades of Grey became a bestseller. It's not that it's an actually good work. It's not that it should deserve that. No, it's a common denominator.
Yeah, book clubs have caused some issues too.
Yep.
Looking at you, Oprah.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about architecture and design, and I can tell you that a lot of people in California made a lot of money over the course of all the internet bubbles, and even before that, with all the IT stuff. So there's a lot of people, relatively speaking, who are sort of new to being rich in California, in Central California, in Silicon Valley. And these people, as a lot of people who are sort of nouveau riche tend to be, are a little insecure about their standing. So
Yes.
they feel that they have to make a statement. And they look for a house that basically says, I've arrived.
Uh-huh.
And in order
Which
to get...
just screams parvenu to everyone that sees it, too.
Yeah, and well, to anybody who's kind of wise to it, yeah, absolutely. But they referred to them around here as McMansions.
Yeah.
Because people have these McMansions. And I heard one designer basically describe it in the following way. It's as if somebody goes out and gets a copy of Architectural Digest,
Yes.
then circles all the things that they like from Architectural Digest, and then they say, find me a house or build me a house that has all of these things in it.
Yeah.
And what you end up with is a style that's been referred to as California dingbat design.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like you walk in and you have to have the entryway, and it has to have a ridiculously high ceiling. And it just goes on from there. It's all the predictable horse shit. All of the gingerbread here and a column there and an arch there, and you've got to have the right type of windows in the right place, and it's just very much like a cafeteria meal where you just start grabbing stuff and then work your way down the line with your tray.
Plug and play. Yeah.
It's the NPC's approach to architecture.
Yeah, and it's actually, what's interesting is it, instead of coming across as charmingly eclectic, it comes across as hectic and disorganized to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no unifying theme to it. Your home is your refuge, and of all the places that should actually reflect a good bit about you, people are turning them into sterile things that they wave about and say, "See, look what I have."
Yeah.
And it's, I find it really sad, actually, that people are so lacking in opinion.
That's what I was saying when I want the 1800s explorer study. That's
yeah.
because I don't want it pre-decorated. I don't want it just, oh yeah, I need to have an elephant's foot over here and I need to have this over that. No, I want it to be, this is the room that I actually fill with shit that I got.
Mm-hmm.
This is the room of random bits and bobs from my life, from my travels, from my interests.
Yeah, here are the things that are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's exactly what I broadcast from. It's a room that my beloved wife just shakes her head every time she goes past it. But it is absolutely chock full of everything from my life experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just exactly like what you described. It even has some Africa stuff. It's got a zebra skin drum, about 2 feet high, that you can actually sit on and use as a seat. My kids used it as a seat when they were growing up, and I've got all the pictures. I've got my commissioning sword, various swords I've picked up.
Mm-hmm.
It's got well, before I lost them in the boating accidents, it used to have guns in it, and it's got everything. It's got a lot of old computer equipment, frankly, a lot of old computer equipment that will never be used, but it just comforts me.
And I honestly think that everyone that lives in a house should have one room in that house that is devoted to just them. And
that would be ideal.
Yeah, ideal. This is what I'm talking about. The ideal. It's not always possible because if you're like Jenna,
right,
and there's 36 people in the house, unless you have a more than 36 room house, you're fucked. You aren't going to be able to do this. But if you have the ability, every single person within the house should have one room that is their room. They have complete decision on the decoration and what goes in. Because I think everyone needs that kind of almost refuge that they can go to.
That's really important to kids, Sanguine. That's actually, I think, a really good insight to children, to be able to have a little bit of control in their lives. Kids don't commonly have a lot of control. They get told what to do most of the time because they're being socialized. They're being told how to grow up. And so they don't get a lot of discretion over the features of their lives, the controllable parts. And so when you can do that and give them that and give them the experience and responsibility of making those decisions, that's just good life training, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that I think everyone of pretty much every age benefits from. And
I agree with you.
It used to be something that was done, at least by the people that were fairly well off. Because you used to have the gentleman's study and the woman's parlor. Where...
Yes, or more particularly, maybe her boudoir.
Yeah, her boudoir, her parlor. It goes by a bunch of different names.
Well, and there would be there would often be a morning room that was kind of the woman's refuge. But yeah, the man had his study and it had his stuff in it. The man cave.
Yeah, and its presentation was different because it depended entirely upon the person who it was the room of. Because there would be some rooms that were devoted to the man of the house that it was his workshop. There'd be others that it is a straight up study. Nice large desk, books lining all the walls, and it's the books that interest them the most. Some decoration here and there.
Private rooms versus public rooms.
Yep. And that's something that we really lost, because I can't think of the last time that I was in a house that truly had that sort of thing. When there's a man cave, it seems like it's a cookie-cut man cave that has a couple differences here and there.
Yeah, it's a bar, a couch, and a TV.
They started decorating professionally man caves.
Yeah.
And I mean, it
For people without personalities.
yeah, that's it. And there's a way, it depends on whether it is a public or a private room. If it's genuinely a private room, it really ought to reflect the user of the room. I can understand unifying decorating theme in public rooms, or thematic by room, or something like that. But not even those are lacking personality now.
Yeah, doesn't that strike you as a little bit sad?
It is horrifically sad. There isn't an objet in the room in some places that speaks to the
personality
of the inhabitant. Yeah. I live in an environment. It's Skep who said I was a Sybarite, and he's not wrong. I live in an environment full of things I like. And fortunately, a lot of the things Cree likes, I like also. My living room is on glance. If you looked at the objet, it's not eclectic so much as it is all it's not American. There are little mud men statues. There are two carved ivory pieces that Cree's dad got in Vietnam.
Careful with the mudman reference with Luffy Susan.
Mud statue.
Mud statue there.
Yeah. But
not
it's
men. Brown men.
It's got things that my grandfather bought on a trip to Greece. Things I picked up in Spain. A series of art books that I had. Wedgwood that was my mother's and my cousin's, and things like that. And then pictures that are a combination of Orientalia and European, mostly Orientalia. The room overall, if it has something unifying, would be much more Eastern than Western. Because I had those pieces and they were all very usable. And they all kind of swung together and made the room not grandma's front parlor, which was kind of how mom had it decorated. Our den is insane. There are about 1,000 books on the bookcase.
You used a term I want to go back to. Just, I love Wedgwood that has like country mills and cottages as the centerpiece.
Some of their bronze stuff.
I like the blue and white. I like the Delft almost, but
yeah, but they've got some stuff that was done in the bronze tones that's very kind of ordinary. It's almost more like painted ceramic than their relief.
Right.
And I do have to correct myself, because as I was thinking about it, I have one house that I can think of where it had a distinct room that was absolutely designed for one person by that one person. And it's a family friend of my family he's a higher ranking police officer, let's phrase it that way. And he has his den in the basement.
Mhm.
And he has his bar, which he set up there, which, yeah, that's in most man caves, but his bar is set up with like the bar tools behind it. It's one of his close friends, handled all of them in antler from his various hunting trips.
Oh, wow.
And antler. I love
Yep.
it.
He has the backsplash for the bar is done with stones from an area that has a particular meaning to him. So that is also him. The woodwork was done by himself and one of his friends for the cabinetry at the bar. And then he and one of his friends also worked on the actual bar top. And he has little bits that fleck the bar top and the back walls and the cases that are mementos from things that were important. So, like his sergeant's stripes. When he hit sergeant, he has those mounted so that they're visible. He has shadow boxes and
yeah, all the things that make him him.
Yep.
All the things that support what his personality became. Just to show you, just to illustrate what's on the screen. This is what I was talking about with Prospero. This is a piece of Wedgwood china, and it's got just an intriguing, a very interesting looking. Yes, it is in the Delft style, very much so. Prospero was saying it's like a Dutch thing, and she's not wrong. I love looking at the scenes. That's the thing, because it takes me there, and I love I'm fascinated by the detail that's in them. And anyway, when somebody says the word Wedgwood china, this is kind of more what I think of. Although Wedgwood covers a multitude of artistry in China.
A lot of people would be familiar with the very classical relief work that they did.
Oh yeah,
with bisque finish and
sure,
and even gloss. They did gloss finishes, but there's a panoply of Wedgwood, and there's it's interesting because those kinds of picture plates used to be done a lot. I mean, there was production of that kind of china. A church might have plates done of a picture of the church, or I have a couple of those floating around in the house. The Ladies Guild would put out a cookbook, and there'd be a commemorative plate, that kind of thing, which is really borrowed from that.
But anyway, it's dishes that are more fun to look at than use.
Yes,
and Wedgwood is almost like saying Kleenex when you mean tissues, because it's not confined to the Wedgwood name. I mean, there were many countries that put beautiful scenes on their pottery and on their dishes, and Prospero, you made mention of the Dutch. Some of the Dutch work, some of the work done in the Flanders mills, in the 18th century, 1700s, is exquisite, and it holds up. It's just as perfect today as it was then.
Oh yeah, there were really some remarkable.
They're a little more valuable now.
China work that were done, and of course chinoiserie became very popular.
Yeah.
So there was just a wild amount of that done in porcelains, for for mass collectibles as opposed to,
Oh, yeah.
not everybody can get their hands on a Ming vase, folks. So
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have something pretty for you to look at if you have a second.
yeah, sure.
Take a gander at this house in San Jose.
Oh my good God.
Can you make that big? Thank you.
This,
What on God's green earth?
Sphinx cats on the outside.
what you're looking at is one of the more unique things. This is not a McMansion.
No.
This is somebody
No.
taking, like almost arts and crafts
Yeah.
and doing it up in this fantastic sort of Egyptian-inspired garden thing.
Mm-hmm.
What an amazing house this thing is.
It is. I wish I could see more.
Detail.
Well, I'm using Google.
and
I'm using
more
Google
different
Earth,
perspectives.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not for sale, so I can't do here's the 20 pictures of going through. But it's one of the few houses that isn't like a Frank Lloyd Wright house that if there was an open house, I would go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, it's so spectacularly unique.
Mm-hmm.
That
It absolutely is.
and
yeah.
it's kind of wonderful because
Look at the planters.
yeah,
I know it's very
My God.
tasteful.
Yeah, that's just beautiful.
it's remarkably tasteful, but it's also
utterly unique.
it also looks though like they've taken a lot of care, especially with the plantings, to make it as organic as possible.
That rose trellis with
Yes.
the rose crawling up there, that didn't get there by itself. Trust me when I
the
know what I'm
movement
talking about here.
on both sides, the one to the far left as well as the one framing the door.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is, the house is highly symmetrical, but the plantings are asymmetrical,
Yeah.
which is such a
Just makes it
relief to
beautiful.
the eye. Yeah,
Yeah, it absolutely is.
It makes
Absolutely
something
is.
appear organic. If you talk about siting homes and landscaping homes organically, that term was used.
It makes
before.
it a symphony instead of an annoying buzzing sound.
It looks like it belongs there.
Yeah, McMansions make an annoying buzzing sound in my brain. This is music right here.
There are McMansions all around here. This is an older neighborhood, and a lot of things have been torn down and replaced
Sure.
with terrible McMansions.
That's big business in Northern Virginia.
I mean, there's some original houses, but oh look, there's our RV, a modest affair.
Yeah.
That's actually reasonably tasteful.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit like number 2 lives there from the Village. But there are a lot of McMansions in this neighborhood. You can see the thing behind there. But yeah, this is one of the more unique houses in the San Jose area, and I just love it. It's not even my favorite
Nice.
style, and I like it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
but
nice.
Anyway, there you go.
The thing
right.
that I'm really worried about
Thanks,
is
Harry.
Sure.
when I'm talking about this, it really comes down to the idea that your house should almost be a reflection of you and your character, and I'm really worried that it is for these people.
Well, yes, that's in the discussions that I've had with designers. They're a bit off-put by it too. I mean, it makes their job easier to some extent because they just pop open House or Pinterest, and or the people have already done that and come in saying, "I want this," and that's all well and good if you don't want your workload to be.
I have spare supplies from the past 5 houses that
Yeah,
I needed to do.
all that tough, but at the same time, most people go into interior design, and I mean it's serious interior design. I don't mean Debbie Decorette, because they like expressing design and working with clients and translating their vision into something that's actually doable. And when you run squarely into an absolute absence of personality and no personal aesthetic at all, you realize that an entire aspect of individuals' characters are not being developed. And we need to wrap up. I think we might pick this discussion up tomorrow.
Yeah, I think great idea.
Because
Do a part 2.
no matter your living circumstances, aesthetics matter. Aesthetics are not just merely for the affluent.
Heinlein said, budget the luxuries first.
Yeah.
They're important.
We all characterized our little portion of our dorm rooms a certain way. It said a lot when you walked in somebody's room about the posters they had on a wall, who they liked, what mattered to them, that kind of thing. So we'll table this until tomorrow evening when we will have a discussion of aesthetics, I think. If that sounds interesting to present company. I know Harry will be otherwise.
I'm game.
I'm just going to be a humble
good to me.
bread delivery man tomorrow.
Good man.
Good man.
Proud of you.
You bring delicious nutrition to people. That is not to be sneezed at, my friend.
Spreading whole wheat is a beautiful thing. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I know most of you usually have a parting thought, so I shall run it round the circle. Harry?
Well, since I am not going to be here tomorrow, yeah, I do think aesthetics are interesting. I've had when I was trying to figure out what I wanted my streams to be when they grew up, I tried a bunch of different formats, and a lot of times it's surprising how things go back to the Greek sense of aesthetics or ethics or anything else. Aesthetics is a really interesting conversation, and it is very personal. Ultimately, in a cookie cutter, you just buy things at IKEA, but you arrange them differently, and that's supposed to represent your personality. I think a lot of people would like to do better. I think there's definitely that more people than not really wish they could kind of up their game on aesthetics, but it's just another one of those skills that nobody teaches.
Yes. And we've kind of thrown the arts by the wayside in this teaching to the test mentality that we have.
Yeah, well, they're all racist anyway, so.
Yeah, well, that also just infuriates me to no end.
Yeah.
It's because developing a person's sense of beauty is not to be sniffed at. Sanguine.
Just because of what Harry was leaving off with and the phrase that popped into my head due to that. It was a mistake when we translated past masters into past masses.
Quite possibly. Although I don't want to sniff at mass-produced art so people can have in their house.
Oh, I'm not sniffing at that. I'm saying past masters being the masters of their craft versus Massa, the man who owns slaves.
Which is past massas. I heard. I'm sorry. I misheard that.
Which is where it so often seems to go in conversation now.
I should have just pretended that I understood you.
Yeah, it's that word that's in your state song.
Not anymore.
Yes. Oh, they take it out? Okay.
I think they did. I don't care. I don't pay attention anymore. It's gotten that silly.
Yeah.
I've had so many minor strokes, metaphorically speaking, over the major stuff that it's like, no, stop. Just stop. Skep.
Well, I looked up a couple of things people have said. Ran into a guy who has said some interesting things about rifles, or at least a couple of people actually. The first one comes from George Orwell of all people, and he said that rifle hanging on the wall of the working class flat or laborer's cottage is the symbol of democracy. It is our job to see that it stays there. I thought that was interesting coming from Orwell.
Mm-hmm.
A couple from my man Jeff Cooper, and he said, the rifle itself has no moral stature, since it has no will of its own. Naturally, it may be used by evil men for evil purposes, but there are many more good men than evil, and while the latter cannot be persuaded to the path of righteousness by propaganda, They can certainly be corrected by good men with rifles.
Well done.
And then the last thing that I have is also from Cooper, and he a bit shorter. He says, if violent crime is to be curbed, it is only the intended victim who can do it. The felon does not fear the police, and he fears neither judge nor jury. Therefore, what he must be taught to fear is his victim.
Mm-hmm.
I live by that.
Very, very well said. Thank you, Harry, for that foray into.
God, that is disturbing.
Isn't it?
That's not right at all.
That's Van Gogh on bad acid. If the dog had his poker playing buddies there, I would check myself into an asylum. Well, it's just that's it. I'm broken. I'm utterly broken.
I'm done myself.
Well, I'd like to thank chat for hanging in there with us. Those of you that didn't rocket over to Monkey Stream, I swear one of these days. Join us here tomorrow evening.
Bang zoom straight to the moon.
It shall be the familiar faces again. So, with that, everybody, the zoo is closed. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good one.